Hey, what's up, y'all? I am so excited about this show because I have been looking for amazing Black trans women in other countries to share with y'all, and I came across this amazing girl in this documentary called Kelet Ali. And she is a Somali trans woman that was born in Finland, but she grew up in Manchester in the UK. And then she moved back to Finland. And she's just an amazing, beautiful girl. And I wanted to share her, well, woman. And I wanted to share her with y'all. So, hey, Colette, welcome to Marsha's Plate.
Thank you for inviting me to your place. I feel very honored. Oh my goodness.
So I try to look for trans content that's being created. And so when I was like searching, I was like, oh my God, because a lot of European like country, it's sometimes the trans experience is kind of like what they show. They don't really show
Uh-huh.
us. And so I was like, well, let me see if I can find like some Black folks. Cause I went to last year, I went to Amsterdam, and I was like, oh, I wish I could find some Black girls out in this area. And so that led me down a rabbit hole, and I ran into your documentary.
I'm glad to hear that I shine through. But the funny thing is, for whatever reason, or maybe it's just because I'm exposed to it and I'm saturated with it, but it seems like Finland has the highest concentration of Black trans women compared to like other countries in Europe. You'll find a lot in Finland, especially Somali girls. But then outside of that, it's um, well, just like you, I haven't like really run into anything other than white
Hmm.
experiences mostly. So that's an interesting thing. I don't know why.
I love that. So tell me
And I love
about,
how,
go
no,
ahead.
sorry. I love how meticulous of a record keeper you are as well. I said to you in there, it's like hopefully your efforts in the future will be something that, will be appreciated more for what it is because you really are doing the work, finding girls that are so far out of your, periphery. That is amazing, actually, for even the future generations, because that was one thing that, was difficult for someone like me, for example, growing up, was feeling like you are a freak or you
The
are a
only
natural because you
one.
don't see, yeah, the only one, because you don't see people like that around you. But to have people now who are dedicated to making sure that people know that yes, we do exist. Not only do we exist, but we exist all over the world, and there are different kinds of personalities that we have. Some people are more outspoken, others are, more quiet and reserved. And it's nice to see that you have put so much dedication into telling our stories, even though they might seem mundane sometimes. Like I said, mine will. But I guess we'll find out.
So thinking about your story, tell me, and thank you for that, because that's a really affirming. Tell me about you growing up. What was where like your earliest start, like when you were born, like what was your family unit like? Were you the only child? How does that work?
Well, I'm in Helsinki, Finland now, and I was born in a city called Kuopio, which is a little bit further up north. And in Finland, I hear in the United States a little bit like different or the flipped upside down, where the further south you go, the further close-minded people are. Well, here's the further north up you go, the further close-minded people are. Um, so I was born in Kuopio. I don't remember much because I was only 3 when we left. And eventually, my family grew to be 8 kids and my 2 parents here in Helsinki.
Mm.
I'm of the younger side, so I only have 2 younger sisters. And honestly, it's always such an effort to remember how many siblings I have. But so I have 2 younger siblings, and then if I'm number 3, then that would leave what, 5 older than me. And so, as you can imagine, it was a very rambunctious household. There was, only 4 eyes my parents had. So, of course, it led to not everybody like them not being so hands-on. And my father was very traditional kind of guy as well, where he was more concerned about doing the manly role of going to work, bringing in the money. So I honestly did not have a good relationship with my father. And please ask me some questions because I feel like if I can ramble, honestly. I can
Yes.
like really go on and on.
No, you just sharing your story about your parents, because I that's a common experience, because when you have a big family like that, and especially if your parents are following those kind of traditional roles, father is usually out
Yeah.
making the money, taking care of working to take care of bills, and mom is taking care of home. And if you have 8 kids, there's
And that
going to
was
be
that
some.
was a funny thing. If I can say in like as a segue, that was a funny thing. And I'm sure we'll get to it more in depth later. Where is that my mom was fulfilling in a way the traditional role of woman and also man, because she was working too. My father was my father was the type of guy who he would say, "Well, that's a woman's job," or "This is a man's job," only when it suited him. 'Cause my father was
Of
working.
course, that's classic.
Yeah, as soon as it came time to cook or do something like I can't speak too much about when I was an infant if he was changing my diapers or whatever. But when it came time to like work the household, all of a sudden, oh well, no, that's not for me. But then mom, when mama was going to work, then that was acceptable for whatever reason. But
Mm.
anyways, so I was 3 when we moved to Helsinki from Kuopio. Uh, and by that point, my younger sister has not. She was the only one who had not been born. So we were 7. Um, and from there, actually, and in a way, that's because as a child, you think that whatever you're born into is normal. I felt as though I had a pretty um, okay and happy childhood. Like we had a house where everybody had. I don't want to go into too much detail because that's going to take too much time. But we actually lived very nice in terms of like materially. We always had clothes. We always had food to eat. We always had like phone when phones became mainstream or began to be sold commercially. We had phones. We had a forest like right in our backyard where we would have wild raspberries and wild strawberries and wild blueberries
Ah.
that we would eat and there would be like Finland was almost like a banquet in the summer, honestly. You would go outside and you would just eat your fill outside. It was lovely, honestly. But there was always definitely even before I could put to words what it was, that I understood that okay, I don't want to say that there was something wrong with me. No, there definitely was not. But I had an older brother who embodied completely and totally that image
Masculine,
of
manly
yeah.
image.
And so comparing myself to him, I always, could see that there was a huge difference. Not only was there a huge difference, but where many may be like, oh, I'm sad that I'm not more like him. I was like, I want
I don't
simply,
even want no parts of that.
yes, I want a person that I'm here and, how they say, resting in my feminine, being with my sisters, having a good time, you know what I mean? And we would, um, when we would play, you would have, we even had a game room. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I have to give it up to my parents because for them being Somali immigrants coming from a war-torn country, honestly, the house that we lived in was fabulous. If you think about, what they had to come from, we even had like a whole game room
Mm-hmm.
downstairs that was all ours. And in that game room, we would play. We would make up different scenarios of whether it be school, whether it be shopping, or whether it be like customer service scenarios. We would like play life, and I was always a girl in those scenarios. I would always be either the mother, the sister, the waitress, or I would always play like a female role. So I guess in a way, even from there, I could understand in myself that this is what I identified with more. But for me, it just felt very natural. Honestly, I didn't think twice back then because that was just who I was. For the viewership, I was raised in Islam,
Yes.
very by I guess there are some people who are more devout, but my parents were extremely devout too.
Mm-hmm.
And the older I got, the more they would make comments about my behavior, or
Mm-hmm.
even I don't know if
Were y'all covered? Were the girls covered? The
yeah,
women? Okay.
yeah. And if I can jump fast forward into the future, it was to the point where one of my, because I'll take care not to like tell too much of my sibling stories, but I do have a brother also who is transgender, so from female to male, and he was kicked out eventually
They
by
are
my
is he
father.
older than you?
He's older than me.
Okay.
So there's the brother that I just talked about, who, I would always be compared to. He was
Mm-hmm.
born male, is male, whatever. And then I have,
Cisgender.
yeah. And so the one who was born male is the oldest, the very oldest. And then the transgender brother, he's the third. So it
Oh,
was my
okay.
older brother, my older sister, then him.
Yes.
But anyways,
We need
um,
to bring him on too.
listen, that's
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 dope.
episode number two, huh?
Did they transition before you?
Um, you know, no,
After you? Okay.
yeah,
Oh,
that's a
you
lot
kind of
hard to explain
inspired.
because that's a lot hard to explain because I, I used to go to the black market net websites, and I began my transition even as 16 or 15. I
Hmm.
started taking hormones, so in a way, that's when I began my transition, and that was before I told anybody anything.
Gotcha.
But
What year was that?
so if I was 15 and I was born 1997, was that 2012? Something like that.
Yeah.
But it was after I moved to the UK.
Okay. In my brain, there was things that happened to where I started to get the language of trans. It wasn't, well, how
Hmm.
does that happen for you in this era that there's so much trans information coming out? That's if it's 2012, that there literally is a trans renaissance happening. So when I was coming out, it was like literally a lot of stuff that we couldn't find. So how does it happen for you? How is it revealed to you that, oh, I'm not just a gay male. I'm something else.
First of all, I don't think I was even a gay male, honestly. I mean,
Right. That's
I've
fact.
always had, that was one thing that was always confusing for me. Is like when I see a beautiful woman, it's like, do I want to be with her or do I want to be her? You know what I mean? I was not sure. But anyways, so I had a friend that I met when I was 8. She's also Somali, and she used to live literally up the hill from me. And me and her, although we never like came out to each other because we always sort of like understood and knew. We sort of like took on that journey together. I don't. I
Mm.
mean, I can't speak for her because she's a very resourceful girl. But for me, I don't think I would have been able to make things happen or being able to get to an understanding about myself as quickly as I did if I didn't have her as a friend.
Mm.
Because together, we would think, okay, because earlier, do you know how I said that it was strange for me because I felt, like I was a freak or like I was alone in it. Well, with her in my life, I was like, okay, well, if there's one more, surely there's others,
My
right?
friend.
Together, we would sometimes make posts online, which was reckless. Oh my gosh. But through that, we found my friend Lola, who, if you've seen the documentary,
Mhm.
she appears in that.
Which
So I
one?
met,
Is it the one that wears the head wraps?
yes, 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 yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes.
That's her. Well, apparently she had seen us first around town because we would, as strict as my parents were, I would sneak out sometimes and we would, go places where we shouldn't have been going. Um, and so she would see us like in different bus stops or in parks or in playgrounds or whatever. And a couple of years later, we met her, And so she was, in a way, a key to me meeting other Somali trans in Finland. So I met Marian first, then Lola, and through Lola I met Elena, and then I met, other girls, and then uh, that was sadly short-lived because I had to move to the UK.
Okay.
But Marian stayed here, and she, would meet other trans people as well, and they would let us know, hey, I shouldn't tell you this, but there's a website that's called this, where you can get your hormones delivered to you in like a gray anonymous package. And so that's how I heard about it.
Oh, I love that. So describe the scene. Describe the queer scene in Finland. What is it like? What's the vibe? Like, is it a party? Is it a party town? It doesn't have to be, because I know when I go to other countries, sometimes the queer stuff is really, really undercover. And sometimes it's kind of like, oh, it's just out and kind of cool. What is that vibe in
Mhm.
Finland?
Well, Finland has its own like ballroom scene
Hmm.
that by the time I came here in 2017 was pretty well. It was pretty new, but it was quite well established. So the scene is quite. I mean, if it's COVID did a number on things, it really did.
Yeah.
And I am quite a naturally introverted person too. I'm not really, especially 26 as I am. I don't have it in my spirit to be going out, doing this, doing that, doing that. So I don't know what the scene is like now, but it was quite alive actually. There are a lot of people who are out, even people who are, because Finland surprisingly is very multicultural these days. So there's a lot of people who are a minority, part of minority groups that come together, and ballroom really has helped it because that's almost like a beacon for
Yeah.
people who are, LGBT. That's one easy place for everybody to come to.
Yeah.
So the scene is quite lively in terms of like people that know each other and like hang out and stuff. But if you mean like if there's gay bars or clubs or events like that, then Finland is in general when it comes to stuff like that pretty dull. I don't
Okay.
think you can compare it to New York or Paris or even London. I think there's a club called Heaven that's
Yeah.
just for trans girls. You won't find anything like that here. There's one bar or club that was called DTM. That was like the place to go. And it was closed. It recently opened back up. But then there was another called Hercules, and that was owned by a man who used to go around apparently saying the N-word and like stuff about um, immigrants and all this kind of stuff.
Oh,
Gay men.
so yeah, so
So
racism is alive and well.
absolutely. As a matter of fact, one thing that the Finnish girls will tell you is that you'll get it the hardest sometimes from other gay LGBT. Well, let me not say LGBT. Let me not, lump the lesbians or the trans in here because they just live their life. But the gays, the white gays, can be very racist.
Consistent around the world.
Yeah.
So you moved to the UK. So tell me about how you adjusted during that move.
Well, I did not adjust very well, to be quite honest with you, because I already felt, while in life I felt very othered. Anyways, just being black and in Finland, and then being LGBT, having a secret inside of me with my family, I didn't feel like I could really be honest with anybody except this friend that I talked to you about, Marianne. And so moving to the UK, now it's like I don't even have, this one
That my
person.
friend, my friend isn't even
Yeah.
here. Uh,
Yeah. So I became quite of
and how old were you? You were 16?
no, I was 13.
Oh, you
12.
13 when you moved.
Honestly, don't even take my word for it. Honestly, I don't remember. I do not remember. 13 was I 11? I was very young. Because
Mhm.
in Finland you have elementary school that starts from when you're 7 years old, and I honestly have forgotten. I'm not gonna lie,
Mm.
but
Okay.
it was before I was 15.
Okay.
I definitely was not, because I did 2 years of high school in England before I went to college in England.
Gotcha.
And then I went to university, and I had all that done, which was 6 years in total by the time I was 19. So I was
Mhm.
back here by the time I was 19. I was there for 6 years. So I was 13 when I left.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I did not adjust too well. I did not, I mean, of course, who could not understand and like speak English? Of course, everybody could, but I did not speak English so well. So I didn't feel like I could articulate myself well. I just felt like, oh my gosh, okay, let me close my mind for a second. That's what it felt like. I was a zombie for a second. Like, let me just get through these years, be a zombie for a couple of years, and then leave. Because by that time, I already knew that I was trans, and I already knew that I was already preparing myself for the fact that I would not be in a relationship with my family in the future. So
So that wasn't an option at all.
I, of course, would have loved to, but I knew with how religious my parents were, and with how religious my siblings, and this was an act from them, some of them too, with how religious also they seem to be, that it was not going to be a possibility.
Mm.
I at that point knew, okay, you're going to be disowned, so just get ready for it, honestly.
And I
So
remember there was a story I read about you where you said that like a bunch, like your uncles and your aunts and some of your parents kind of brought you in a room and was like, "Hey, if you choose this, we're not gonna fuck with you."
eventually, yeah, and that was when I was 18. So 5 years after we moved to the UK, I got my hands on, the black market hormones. I would go back and forth from Finland, and once in a while I would get caught. Because, and I have the same kind of one on now, but I don't know what form they take in the United States, but here, these things that look like band-aids, clear
The
band-aids.
patch, the
Yeah,
estrogen patch, yeah.
yeah. I would have them, of course, in my stomach as recommended. And a couple of times I would get caught like, what the hell is that? And I would say, oh, well, I burned myself, and uh, it was a burn. You know what I mean? I put Vaseline and aloe vera on it, and that's what it is. So the brother that I told you about, and I have another sister who's bisexual, and I have yet another sister who's also bisexual.
Oh,
My
so
younger
just
sister.
so half of your family is queer.
See what you see. It's why I keep telling people it's genetic. It's in the DNA, darling. Look at my family. But so eventually it became such a thing in my chest that I had to tell someone. You know what I mean? I was in England all by myself. I just had to like get it off my chest. And so I told my older sister, who did not react well. Then I told my other older sister, the one who is bi. She was quite neutral. She was like, "Oh, okay." It was there. She didn't really make any fuss about it. And then I told my other older sister. Then I one by one was telling all of my siblings until I got to my brother who was trans, and I left it there. I didn't tell my two youngest siblings because I was a little too scared of, if they are gonna react negatively. I was not ready for that, honestly. But my brother then told me, he was like, "So it's just a bunch of damn fags in this family, huh?" He said something like that.
Which one? The oldest brother?
No, the one who's trans.
The one who's trans now.
He laughed at me. He laughed at me. He was like, "Oh, so it's a bunch of damn fags in this family." I was like, "What? What did you call me?" And then he was like, "I'm trans too." And so we cracked up laughing from there on. And this brought us much closer, honestly, because we've been a little tense usually. This brought us very close. And from there up until I moved out, my brother, the one who is trans, and then the one, my sister who is bi, we would have our secret like coalition. where we would talk to each other, we would be open with each other, we would, now that we all knew. Of course, my sister at the time didn't tell us that she was bi. She was not at that point herself yet, but she was very supportive of us. And so they were kind of a support for me. My friend who I told you who was trans did came to visit me in the UK, and my parents did not like her because she was very flamboyant, and they could tell something from her, and so they thought that she was leading me down a negative, path. My friend came to the UK, and she did so without booking any place to stay. Just booked tickets. And my parents did not like her. I lived with my mother at the time. At this point, my parents had been separated. I did not know, but they were separated. So I was living in my mother's house in the UK. And so she booked her tickets and just showed up. And we did have a good time. But eventually, I was in a difficult position because it was like, oh, well, I don't have a place to stay. Can I come stay at yours? I was like, well, my parents don't like you, bitch, so no. So she stayed. She found an alternative thing. She found like some guy. She got into a little bit of trouble with this guy, and she ended up in the hospital. And so at that point, I was like, okay, well, it's safety first, right? So I called my mom. I let my mom know, okay, my friend is here. Can she come and stay? Of course, my mom was not happy about this, but she was like, okay, she can come and stay. And when my father found out,
It
he
went
was not
down.
happy. It went down,
But
yeah.
they weren't. But you said they were separated. Were they? What
So
does
he
that
would
mean?
come. So I did not know this. I only found out about this a couple of years ago, but they had been having issues for a long time. Like ever since I was a toddler. They had apparently even divorced at one point during my childhood while we were still living in Finland. And then they separated, and that was the reason for the move to the UK.
Gotcha.
Because my mother didn't want to be, near my father, apparently. So she left
Gotcha.
and she took us with her. But he would once in a while come and visit. And thank goodness he was not there when my friend decided to book her ticket. So we didn't have to deal with him immediately. But when he did come and visit, he was not happy. And it did
But
cause
he
some
was, even
strain.
though they were separated, he was still trying to run the house.
Let me tell you one thing about my father. Honestly, let's take another segue from the segue. My father was kind of a lunatic in that, like I said, they were separated, right? We lived in a house in the UK. He would come and he would leave recording devices, like in hidden places, so that he could catch my mother cheating. And he
Even
could
though
like
they were
come,
separated.
even even though they were separated, or that I think that's the reason why they were even separated in the first, because he kept accusing her, from what I know. And
Probably because he was doing it.
I mean, Taylor's all this time, huh? But anyway, um, and there was even one time that was such a funny experience for me, where it was one of the moments where my father came to visit. What was it? I was 16 years old, and let me tell you, I was a little reckless. You know what I mean? I was doing things that I should not be doing. I was raised very, sheltered, and my parents trying to like prevent me from really exploring and seeing the world. And you know what that does to certain people is makes them be very sneaky, and makes them want to do, find things out on their own. And that's what I was doing with a handsome 24-year-old man. Unfortunately,
Chasing the trade, baby.
yes. Unfortunately, if I could go back, honestly, oh my god, but that's what I was doing at 6 years old, right? Having my first taste of vodka. And I thought it was, how in the movies it looks like water. So I put about this much vodka, this much Coca Cola. And although it was bitter, I drank it. And so me and this man, finished up, and I went home. I literally stumbled home. I opened the door and I was like, okay, let me hurry up upstairs so that I'm not seen. and then my sibling comes knocking at the door.
Which
Like,
one?
yeah.
Which one?
At this point, I don't remember. It doesn't even matter because they were only telling me to come downstairs because my father had called a family meeting.
Everybody.
Everybody come downstairs. So I was there like, oh my gosh. And my father said, come
And you
sit down
drunk as
with
hell.
me. I'm drunk as hell. I probably still smell like the guy, girl. And he said, come sit next to me. I said, oh my God. I had felt like this was gonna be my last day living. I felt like I was gonna die. So we sat down and he started saying something like, oh, I need for you kids to understand one thing. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can say. There's nothing you can even think that I don't know about. And he paused with it a little bit. And he kept on with that, grandiose type of, there's nothing that I miss. Do you understand? Huh? There's nothing that I miss. And I was so sure that he was talking about me that my heart was racing. I was there like, but the family meeting came and went, and he said nothing to me. To this day, he hasn't said anything to me. He didn't know. So that was when I really, because I had already kind of clocked my father from a very young age, honestly. But that was when I was like, oh, you're just an arrogant guy. You're really,
Yeah.
I love him, honestly.
Really a
Yeah,
fuck boy.
yeah, you're just a very arrogant person who, you have a big head, but you're not really as observant as you think you are.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff happening under your nose that you don't know. That's when I began to realize that, oh, okay, he doesn't really see everything. You know what I mean? Because right up under his nose. But anyways, a couple of years after that was actually when if we can get to that story now, when I came out and I had written a letter for my mother and my father. I sent the same text through text message. Because every summer, what I would do is I would save money and I would book my own, or I would go to my father and I would say, hey, okay, take this cash and book me a ticket to Finland so that I can have a holiday there. Because listen, if you ever get to experience a Finnish summer, I recommend it. It's the most beautiful thing.
Oh, I want to come. I'm gonna hit you up as soon as I
Beautiful
can.
thing. Welcome, welcome, welcome for real. And I hope, I mean, I don't know what your schedule is like, but apparently, I don't know if you know Jack Misrahi.
I know, Jack. Yeah.
That's my ballroom mother. So he's apparently coming and having a ball on May.
I love it.
But so I would book tickets every summer, or I would have my father book tickets every summer. And this time I planned to stay. He had booked me a flight. As soon as it was booked, I wrote my mother the letter, sent my father the same text, and hopped on a plane. I got to Finland, and my father and my brother and my oldest brother were there waiting because, of course, he had received the text instantly. And so he called his boss and he said, hey, there's a family emergency. Can I get time off work? And picked up my brother, came to the airport.
Your oldest brother.
My oldest brother. Because my still older but younger one, the rest of my siblings were in Finland. Not Finland, but England. And so they came and I opened up my phone and I see messages from my mother and from my sister saying that they were sorry for ever making me feel like I cannot be myself, and that they love me and they want me around them, and that I misunderstood them, and to please give them a chance to show them that we can be a family. Whatever. They were sending me very positive things. And so did my father, honestly. And when I met him at the airport, he was repeating those same positive things, that he loves me, that he is sorry that I have not, that he has made me feel like I cannot be honest. And I, for a minute, I was like, okay, because I love my family deep down, even my father. So if there was a chance or opportunity to have them in my life, of course I was going to take it. So when he suggested that I come and stay one day with my auntie, like I usually would when I would come visit Finland, and then if after that day I still wanted to leave, then I could leave, and then no one would stop me. I said, okay, that sounds good. Um, so I went there, and my father was like, call your mother. And I had just, hung up the phone with her. And so that's why I just talked to her. I said, and he said, well, yeah, I know, but I think she would appreciate seeing your name come up on her phone. And it made sense to me, honestly. So I said, okay. I called her. As soon as she picked up, he snatched my phone out of my hand, went to the bathroom, spent a really long time in there, disabling the passcodes and the pin code so that you don't have to it doesn't lock if it closes. Then he went ahead and secretly found my passport in my bag. And then when the next day came, he was like I said, no one's keeping you here. You can leave if you want to, but you're not getting a shit back. You're not getting any of your stuff. You can leave just with those clothes that you have. And of course, at this point, I was raised to be very, obedient to my parents and stuff, which is something that's very hard to break from. So
Yeah. Mm.
when I was faced with him, even though I wanted to be like, fuck you, I'll, work something out, even with just the clothes on my back. But I was so scared that I was like, okay, okay. And so they had booked me a flight to the UK, and I was set to go to university that that autumn.
Before you move to there, when you were having this conversation with your father, your aunts and your brothers and stuff were standing around?
Um, so it happened in a way where we went there. My brother and my father came, and my brother left at some point, but my aunties and yes, they were there.
Okay, gotcha.
When he was like, "Yeah, you're not getting anything back," they were all in agreement and in support that this is the best thing to do. So yeah, in that way, it's difficult too because I feel like I was alone. I didn't have any options. I didn't have any safety net, and so just for my own survival, because I, I was very young. I was so reliant on them. Honestly, I didn't know what to do. So I was like, okay,
Right.
I guess, So they took me back to the UK, and they said, you're gonna have to drop out of university, or you're gonna have to postpone it. And I said, I don't want to drop out, but I managed to find a way to, how you can let your whatever they're called know that, hey, I can't this year. Can I start next year? That would work. So that's what I did,
So
and I start next
why
year
did they feel like you had to stop school?
because they wanted me to instead go to this mosque that they already had me going when as soon as I
Oh, they were on some conversion therapy type shit.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So immediately they started having me go to the mosque daily. And maybe I wouldn't call it conversion therapy, but they did find some therapist that was a religious therapist that was like an Islamic faith-based thing, which I was excited about at first, honestly. 'Cause the lady who owns that clinic, um, she was the one who had the first session with. She was so nice. She was so sweet. She was so validating, honestly. And she was saying even to me that no one should be able to force you to stay in a religion, or even if you are gay, then you shouldn't be treated the way you're being treated. Choice should not be taken from you. And so I was like very excited. But then she ended up saying that since I am the owner of this clinic or whatever she said, I cannot be the one to oversee your case. So I'm going to have someone equally as good of a therapist for you. Sadly, though, he was not equally as good. He was just the type of person that you would expect when you hear a religious-based therapist. So that's what they had me doing for a couple of months before my mother was like, your grandmother, who is in Kenya, and I had met this grandmother, and I had loved this grandmother, and we had a very good relationship. Uh, she wants to see you because she's sick and she's feeling, some negative feelings about this whole thing. She would like to see you. I knew immediately in my head what was about to happen, but I said yes anyways. And so there we went, and the first couple of days in Kenya were pretty nice. I had an auntie there who is the devil, but for the first couple of days was very sweet, very sickly sweet. Sometimes her real personality would come out, but overall she was like very sweet. And of course my grandmother was there, and my grandmother, she can be, you know how old ladies are sometimes, very abrasive, very harsh, very mean, but she was a very loving lady, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. It was nice to spend those times with her, honestly. I felt it was very genuine from her. But anyways, I was there for at this point, I don't remember how long I was there for, because I was not, it almost felt like I was not present in here during those times. Eventually they sat me down, and this was the second time it happened. The first time before we went to Kenya, um, my parents had sat me down with my older sister, who was a part of the coalition that I spoke about, and then my other older sister. And she had made both of them say that if I continue on with this path, that if my siblings ever see me on the streets, hungry, cold, tired, near death, that they would walk right past me, and that they would not help me at all. And the reason why, never for 1 second did I hold this against my siblings, was because she said to them in front of me, all those 3 times, to my siblings, that if you don't say this to her, you'll end up in the streets. So I can't be mad at them, honestly. I didn't really care about even living at this point, much less lying or, hiding the truth. So when they were like, oh, you need to make a choice, and that's the right path or this wrong path, and then they laid out consequences. And I was just like, it's not about a choice. I already told you. And it's not going to change. I'm sorry. I could lie to you now, but let me have you understand, this is not something I could change. I would just be lying to you if I said this, is what I said to them. And so they tried that whole one by one, and this time it was with all of my siblings. Their whole, oh, we would walk past you. And I could do nothing but laugh at that point, mainly to keep from crying, because it was honestly very sad. Uh, and I was like, listen, like I said, you can threaten me all you want, you can say whatever you want to me. It's not gonna change, and it's not because I don't love you. It's not gonna change. I can't control it. I'm sorry. It's not gonna change. They were like, okay, well, you're gonna stay here then. You're not going to any university. You're not going to college. You're not actually, as a matter of fact, you're not leaving Kenya. You're staying here. And so that's when I freaked out. And I spoke with my mother, and I was able to convince her to have me back there. And I promised her that I was gonna commit to the fact that I was not gonna go to university, but I was gonna go to the mosque or whatever she wanted me to do. That's what I was gonna do. And she was like, okay, because I don't think my mother wanted me to stay in Kenya either. So I came back to UK. This was towards the end of 2015, and 2016 March, I started going to this place called the City Center Project, because my mother would send me to the mosque, and eventually, um, I guess I gained enough trust that they would have me go by myself. But instead, I would go to the City Center Project, and I would tell them, "Hey, I'm in this kind of situation. I'm scared that I'm gonna end up homeless. So, like, can you help me?" And they had this lady there that was very wonderful. I think she was from Congo or Ivory Coast or something like that. And she was so sweet and so supportive, honestly, just what I needed in a moment like that. And
You remember her name?
no, honestly, I've tried to find her a couple of times, but it was such a short time, and I was already so in a daze that I don't remember much. But before they could find me something, and this is where the story that I told you earlier happened. So from the beginning of 2016 all the way to March when I left.
Bless you.
That's when my brother, who was trans, one day, because he had always, progressively began to have issues with my father and how domineering and how controlling he was, especially over, the girls' wardrobe. Like you asked, yeah, they had to be covered and they were not even allowed to wear pants. They had to wear like dresses or a skirt. And so my brother would wear pants. And so one day my father, this was after I came out, and like the whole Kenny shenanigans happened. So the whole Kenny thing happened, and I was already back in England. And my father ended up giving my brother an ultimatum that if you don't start wearing dresses now or and skirts, then you will be kicked out. You will not have a home. My brother was like, "Oh, really?" He said, "Oh, okay." We woke up the next morning and he was gone without a trace.
Mm.
He was nowhere to be seen. I already knew that it was because, he had been going to the same city center project, and he just had to hasten his departure. And so that's when I was like, "Oh goodness, shit, it's time for me to also really think about
What
my
I'm
exit
gonna
plan."
do.
Yeah. And so it had to have only been like a month or something, where my father called another family meeting. And throughout this time, honestly, I was in a very weird mental state where there would be times where I couldn't even speak, honestly. I would just be like a rock, like the electricity has just left out of me or something. I would just be laying there lifeless sometimes. All while my mother would speak to me saying, "Oh, please come back to God," or stuff like this, some weird shit like that. And I would just be, I don't even know what to call it, but I would be here, but I would not be here. But eventually, through that days, what really kick-started something in me and really had me like, come to action was my father was like, let's have a family meeting. Once again, those other family meetings that he loved to have. He called us all down one by one. He would have us talk about the past year, not even necessarily to do with, what I started, but how we were feeling. Because for whatever reason now they wanted to take just now their children's mental health a little bit more serious. So this was their way um, of like having us all talk about our mental health. So when it was my turn, I decided I was going to be honest about how the whole Kenya thing. So I decided to talk about how that made me feel. And he said, "Well, that sounds a whole lot like your problem, not mine." And I left the next day.
Yeah. I mean, what do you say after that?
Mhm. I got myself and I left. I was like, "There's nothing left to say then. If it's my problem, I'll figure it out on my own without
Mm.
any hindrance from you." And that was the last time I laid eyes on my mother. and that was now 2016. How much is that? That's 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, that's
and
it's sad, and it's sad, and you don't deserve that. And I hope that you internalize that, because I know that because you grow up with your family and you do love them, and they have their own stuff going on with religion and their own beliefs and blah 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 blah. It is sad that you can't have that relationship with them, but I also know that sometimes when it's kind of like that, a strange relationship, we can kind of internalize it and make it feel more like it's our fault, and it's our and it's kind of almost shameful in a way. But I hope you don't internalize that and know that that's just their shit, and
yeah,
you did what was right for you.
yeah, and I don't. Ultimately, I understand that was a blessing in disguise, honestly. And that's why I left, honestly, because I loved my mother. I really did. And there were a couple of times where I considered just living, the way she wanted me to live because I wanted, access to her in my life. But I really began to think about what that would mean. If I lived, I would die for her. Honestly, I would die for her. If it was between me, my siblings, and my mother, somebody said it's either you or them, meaning life, I would always say them. But if I had to live for someone else, that's different. So I realized that I would not live for her because that would honestly lead to me being very resentful of her and them.
Mhm.
Ultimately, leaving was the best thing for all of us because now, in a way, she gets to miss her son. She gets to still have, that love in her heart for her son and wonder what if. And I always, can still have that, love for them and that idealized love for the ones that I no longer have a relationship with, that did not have a chance to be corrupted in a way by years of resentment. You know what I mean? Because ultimately,
Mhm.
that's what would have happened. I know I would have been very resentful of her,
That's
and
gracious.
she would have been very resentful of me, or probably would have seen me differently. And I would have, regardless, had a bad relationship with them. So best just cut things off now and miss each other and still have that, longing for each other rather than have it be replaced by anger and resentment and, well, it's because of you I'm not happy. So it's a big
That's a
thing.
gracious way to think about it. That's a gracious way to think about it. I think that's powerful. So when does the joy come?
The joy came.
Because you leave, and of course you're scared, and you like, I don't know what's gonna happen in the future. What starts to happen once you leave?
Well, I leave, and of course things are difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was living, I was homeless for a couple of days because I left so abruptly. Not even the Citizenship Project could like keep up. I was in a hostel, and I was there for like not a couple of months. I was there for a month, and then I found a job, and then I stayed there for some more months, and then I went to that university that I delayed. I went there. It was Bournemouth University in England, in the south of England. Beautiful place. I was there for a couple of months when I was like, oh, I'm not in the right mindset, honestly, because I was just still reeling from that. I don't know how to describe that sense of I was here, but I'm not here. I was just feeling numb, or I was not able to get my, focus on schoolwork or get myself up in the mornings really, because I just felt a little, I was not ready to focus really on anything, let alone like university. So I dropped out. Thankfully, my brother at the time was working um, for an organization called the Proud Trust that would help LGBT youth exactly in the position that I was. So
And this
they
your
helped me
trans
out.
brother.
Yeah. So they helped me out financially and even just with food when I was, and even when I first left, I had been homeless for 2 days in the streets when one of my brother's coworkers was like, "You can come to my apartment." And while I was in Manchester, I would go there very frequently because they would feed me, they would help me with my CV and stuff like that. Then I went to Bournemouth, decided it didn't work out. So they helped me come back. Uh, and then that's when I was like, okay, I don't think there's anything left in England for me. Let me go to Finland. So I went back to Finland. Um, and immediately after, I met Susani Mahadura, a woman called, oh, my friend Lola, who I talked about earlier, was contacted by Susani Mahadura. And she asked if she if Lola wanted to come on their podcast with another woman called Yagmur Ösbergan, because they were doing podcasts covering different topics. Lola said, no, I cannot do this because Lola was scared of, what the backlash might be from the Somali community. And so she was like, but I have my sister Kelet. Let her be the guinea pig. Boom, go, she said. So I went there. I met Susani. Susani, in that moment, decided that she wanted to make a documentary about the trans experience, especially in Finland, from the perspective of someone who is not native to Finland. And so from 2017 all the way up to late 2019, we filmed that documentary. And in the meanwhile, I would do some modeling here and there. Life was going pretty good for me. And so 2020, the documentary came out. A couple months later, COVID. And one thing honestly, about experiences like that and grief in a way is that it hits you with a little aftershock in a way, where in the beginning you might be so focused on, okay, let me get myself out of this situation, that you won't even feel it. But as soon as, your life becomes a little bit more stable, a little bit more routine filled, then it just hits you. So this prevented me honestly from being my best self in ways and going to school immediately, or I was just, doing, well, I mean, I said easy things. I was doing actually very well for myself, considering, but I was just coasting through life as well. I didn't have the energy to really put towards any friendships or, you know, any long term anything. I was just focused on, okay, make sure you can pay your rent for this month. Make sure you have food to eat tomorrow. Make sure that, everything is good for tomorrow. Don't even think about,
Right.
which has changed recently, thankfully, because wasn't last year, it was 2022 September is I started school, business administration, um, and that's going on currently. And so from then on, that's what I want to focus on. That's been my dream, and thankfully, because I go to an educational institution that, on top of business administration, teaches as esthetician, has an esthetician degrees as well. So I've been able to start the courses a little bit earlier. So although I'm doing business administration now, I'm already doing some courses related to the esthetician degree, so that when I finally apply there, it'll be a little bit of a shorter time. So I'm not, I'm not 50 years old by the time I graduate. So that's been my life. Recently, I haven't done anything relating to, modeling or social media, anything like that. I've just been focused on setting up my future. Although I did do reality TV recently, a show called what's called Great Adventure in English, but it's a Finnish thing called Suuri Seikkailu, Great Adventure, and it's kind of like Survivor but in Lapland,
Gotcha.
where yeah, you have like different groups, and then you have the different ways you compete, and then every week somebody gets sent home.
Okay.
So that's something that's going to start March.
Gotcha. Oh my God. Well, your story is really inspiring. I'm glad that you're in a much better place right now. I am glad that you are you're seeing positivity in the future. Like you literally have gotten, you were like, I was kind of like a zombie and not in it. And now it feels like you're back. It feels like you're back in it and have more focus. And for me, I just think that that's so inspiring. I think it's dope.
I think you are very inspiring in that way too, to put your time, your effort into giving people the opportunity to tell their stories and allow us to understand that, hey, number one, that there are others like us out there. Number two, that we are human beings. Because in a way, one thing that came clear to me through my parents and through a lot of people is that a lot of people have been having this, or that you cannot really, for a lot of people, it's difficult to have empathy for someone until they can put a face and a human being to that experience. And so this is very helpful in that way as well, you know,
Hmm.
to show people, trans people, in a way that's just not the, how media might portray it, or, that little stereotype in here, but a person living and breathing, smiling and crying and whatever. I think you are very inspiring in that way too. Can I
So,
ask though, before we go, if there's one thing I've always been curious about, it's the transitioning process in the United States.
okay, what would you like
What
to
do
know?
you do? Um, how does it start? Where do you call? How long does it take? How much does it cost? Does it cost you money? And
So
what is
it's
are there some things that are offered to you for free?
so that depends on the amount of money you make. That depends on how old you are. That depends on where you live. Like it depends a lot of things. So like you described earlier that kind of it's the opposite in Finland, where when you go towards the south in United States, it gets kind of more conservative. And if in Finland it goes, when you go up north, it gets more conservative. So it's similar in the United, but when it comes to resources, the outside, not outside, the coast, the east and west coast of the United States have the most resources. So like when you get on like California, Seattle, those kind of areas, they have tons of resources where you trans can get their surgeries, they can get, on hormones and blah blah without any issues. But when you come
Mhm.
to the south, you come to the red states like Texas, Florida, blah, 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 blah. There are literally people trying to stop you. And I live in Texas. There are literally people trying to stop you
Yeah, you say
from.
Houston. I was like, oh my gosh, I pray for you, honestly. Oh my God.
So now this is some nuance. Let's give some nuance to that. While the South is very, very conservative, the South is also the highest population of Black people, and it is the highest population of queer people. So while they may be the mainstream motherfuckers may be conservative, there is strongholds of Black and queer communities in these southern regions. And so
Right.
you have tons of people, tons of support, tons of people in your corner. There's tons of clubs, tons of culture when it comes to Black queer culture that you'll find
Yeah, I was
in
just
these
about to
southern
ask
states.
that, does that ever overlap? Like, how many of those Black queer people are themselves conservative in a way where, they maybe, how they are, but they don't fight for interests that align with their own? Because I know there are a lot of people who, what's that saying, will lift up the ladder as soon as they climb up, or,
Yes.
will want something for themselves, but not for people who are like them. So, is there any like overlap like that who are
Yes,
queer
you'll
and
find conservative. Black queer people. You'll find conservative, just black straight people. Um, you'll find that overlap. That's the nuance of the South. You're gonna find people that are radical, that are down and ready to fight for our rights, and then you'll find some people that are ready to, respectability, that live in these kind of respectability politics where you have to be a
Right.
certain type of queer, a certain type of gay, a certain type of trans. Some people only fuck with gay. Like, I don't even fuck with trans. Not me. But some people think like, oh, I don't even fuck with the trans shit. That shit's weird.
Oh, well, yeah.
But I
You
can
have
be
people like that
gay.
here too. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some nuance to it, but people always, when they think about red states like Texas and Florida, they think like, oh my God, you live there, da 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 da. But
I begin to
actually,
hear Billie Holiday. Straight streets.
yes, no, it's not that bad. There is community here. And the cities, like another element that people don't understand as well, the cities of these states are quite progressive and blue. So, like Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin are major cities in Texas. They are always blue. Like like we have Democratic mayors, and they're always blue. But it's the rural areas of these states that are kind of like red, red, red,
Oh,
red, red,
so
red, red.
do they overpower or compared to the cities? Are there more?
Sometimes, yes. And with
Really?
gerrymandering and voter suppression and all that kind of stuff, it gives them a little bit more power because
Hmm.
the conservative people have had a stronghold in our particular states. But over time, we hope that, we younger, more vibrant people like yourself getting out and voting, if the more young people we get to the polls, is the more power that we'll have. So we're
Hmm.
trying to, and get people, not, and even using voting as a tool, but also as inspiring to, even outside of voting, other tools and other avenues to get people what they need. That is like the collective project for us all, to be able to kind of combat all the harms that are happening now with this attack against trans people, attack against women, against
Yeah.
queer people. We are all like on this collective path to try to figure out the project of stopping it.
And you have a tremendous road ahead of you, honestly, one that I don't envy.
Yes.
Because yeah, there's a lot to fight against. I mean, we have our own similar issues as well, where just last year came into effect because in Finland, from what I understand, in the United States, you have a two-party system.
Yeah,
You have
basically.
Democrats, Republicans, yes, but in Finland, we do not have a system like that. There are several parties, and then in addition to the president, there's also, you know, the government, and the government does not necessarily, from what I understand, I'm not well versed in that, how all of that works either. It's not necessarily the same party as the president, the government, and the government now is mainly occupied or controlled, if that might be more accurate, by one called perussuomalaiset, called, I guess, the basic Finns, if you want to translate it. Like, literally, I'm not sure what they refer to this in English, but several of them now have been caught either participating in some neo-Nazi rallies or saying some very racist things. And
Yeah.
so there's been a lot of protesting now by people who are against that, because some of the things that have been said and done are quite vile and weird. If you think that, imagine a public official saying some shit like that. But
That's
yeah,
very
even Finland
common,
now.
and that's common with us.
I mean, it's not been so common here, honestly. I mean, back in the day when I grew up in Finland, Finland, yeah, was a racist place. You already knew there was an air to it, honestly. You could smell it, darling. But when I came back from the UK, everyone had this in the air. Trans lives matter, Black lives matter. Everybody was a vegan. Everybody was, buying secondhand clothes. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so blessed. I live in a country that's so progressive, and in a way, I will always be blessed, honestly, for having been born here, and I'm very grateful. But little by little, I don't know, and in a way, I don't want to blame the United States, but United States is very pervasive, honestly. It has have a
Yes.
lot more influence in the world than people might think.
No, it
So
does. Yeah.
I think even Finland, in a way, is following the same type of trajectory or trend as the United States.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's a lot of people who are becoming more bold about their
Racism.
discrimination
And
and
yeah.
racism.
Yeah.
Gimme euphoria, more than peace of mind. It's the joy and space to change the tide.
Tell me, so usually when we close the show out, I always ask people because, especially in heavy stories like yours, because it's kind of focused on some heavy topics, I like to end the show on a positive note. So a lot of times with trans people, we focus on dysphoria, the negative side of our transness and kind of our, you know, different things going on with us. I like to focus on euphoria. So tell me, in this past week, what has been bringing you euphoria? And it could
What?
be anything. It could be something mundane, it could be something small, or it could be something deep, whatever. Something that in this week has been bringing you joy and making you happy.
I wish I had made it up nice. Honestly, it looks a mess. But my bed, I had ordered a new bed, and then I had strewn across fairy lights all over it.
Oh, that's cute.
It looks a little bit messed, don't look a bit close, but I feel like a fairy. I feel like a goddess and a fairy sleeping these days. Like I have fairy
Oh,
lights across, that headboard, and then all across this wall here, and then so yeah,
I love
uh,
that.
it's been a very nice. Like almost broke my toes assembling this bed. It was actually very difficult, and I made a lot of noise. Uh, yeah, I got a few knocks like on the floor, like shut up from my neighbors. But I set this bed, I put all the lights together, and it's made me very happy this
I
week.
love that. That is so dope. Mine is something like a decor thing too. So my house, the way it's set up is
That
it's
was nice.
it's cool. My theme
It's just
is
that it's
like
not burned down.
that's true as well. Literally, my next door neighbors, honey, the fire, crazy. Anybody who doesn't know, who don't follow me on social media, so I live in an apartment complex and I live in, let's say, 703.
Hmm.
701 and 702 burned down.
I
And
thought this thing avoided the cheapest and greatest of calamities. I said, what kind of smoke came to your neighborhood? Now,
exactly. So yes,
yeah.
but I went to IKEA, which is do y'all have IKEA out there? Y'all don't have IKEA.
Didn't we make IKEA?
Okay, I don't know if y'all had it. I don't know.
Yeah, basically we had IKEA first.
Baby. So I went to IKEA and got some things for the house, and I wanted some new pillows. So I got some new pillow, and I'm all about texture. And these are like furry bumps on this
Oh
pillow.
my gosh. These are the
Look,
same, like,
look. Not the same, but close. Yes, it is
yes,
so fucking cute, and it feels so good. I'm all about like texture, so I like
if it
rubbing
feels the
things.
same, yes. This feels so good. Oh my gosh, yes.
Exactly. So I got
I
these
wish I
bright
could have had some colorful ones too, but because in here people prefer like neutral tones and
neutrals.
stuff. This
Yeah, I can't
here,
deal with that. My
I
theme
I
is
love
my theme is primary color. So I have a dark blue couch, as you can see. It's all dark, like dark blue. My wall is like that kind of burgundy, and then yellow, gold. My curtains are gold. So I kind of do the primary colors, but more like a luxe version of them. And then black and white. So I have this and then these pillows. So I just got these new
it. It's
pillows and
very
I fucking
eccentric.
love them. I love that. Very
I
African
love it
auntie in
too.
my brain.
But yes, I would still, regardless, love to come visit there. I even have my in my closet over there. I have my bulletproof vest in there, protected. I just need a helmet now.
That is crazy. Not the bulletproof. Y'all just think we got guns walking around.
I don't want to come back looking like Emmental cheese, so I'm gonna
That is,
protect myself
that is
here, here,
hilarious.
here.
No, it's not that heavy. Where you gotta walk around with bulletproof vests. Not yet, child. It might be coming. Well, let me know. Definitely let me know when you come, but also get Jackass to Jack to bring you to New York at least. Come
No,
on.
listen, yeah, that's definitely gonna happen. If
Yes,
not
I
this
love it.
year, but sometime when I am able to save some good money, because those tickets, oh my God, are expensive. And I don't know
Yeah,
how
it
expensive New
is.
York is, but Finland living it too is very expensive
It is. I was looking in Finland for places to live, and I was like, ooh, it's kind of
to
pricey.
live.
Yeah, I'm thinking about moving, not necessarily to Finland, but in that area, like Finland, Amsterdam. I'm really considering it. I've been looking at apartments and stuff. So
I would say, honestly, if you want to move to a Nordic country, go. But that's even more expensive and more hard to like um assimilate, I guess, because not so many people um speak uh English. But Norway,
mm,
I think, might be an easier place to live, honestly. People are
yeah.
nicer.
It's all about money for me. Like I'm like, what can I afford where I'm not in some unsafe
Well,
place?
strike Norway from that list then. And move it. Yeah.
Well, Colette, thank you for joining me. I appreciate your spirit, and yeah, tell the people where they can find you.
They can find me on Instagram with my name, Kelet Ali.
Mm-hmm.
Although I can't, I hide from there a little bit from myself. I don't post much, but that's where I can be found. And if I post, that's where usually it will be. So with my name, Kelet Ali, you'll find me.
And I will put all of those links in the bottom so y'all can follow her. Her story is amazing. And I want to thank y'all for listening. And yeah, check her out. And we will see y'all next week. All right. Bye, y'all.
Yay. Oh my
Yay!
gosh, that was fun.
Ah,
Honestly, that
that
was
was
so fun.
good. Yeah, the story is amazing. It's gonna be so dope. They're gonna respond to it so well because your story is inspiring. It's like you are, you know, this is like literally our in our country. I don't know how it is with y'all country, but in our country, 40% of the homeless youth are LGBT, and it's because their family either kicked them out or you disown them, blah, 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 forced them to leave, gave them some weird ass ultimatum, or put them in conversion therapy, or made death threats on them. And that type of stuff is so common with our community. And literally, people are traveling to places like New York, Houston, and San Francisco, Atlanta, because they don't have nowhere to go, and they, in their mind, these cities are havens for queer people, and they'll be on the street homeless, like
Oh my
literally
gosh.
40%. And so that's your story, dealing with that with your family, and then surviving, and then literally, coming out on top, making the decision to leave. And yes, it was a struggle at some point, but now you're in a whole different situation, in a more positive situation. And I think that's an inspiring story that people are going to resonate with.
I hope it does, yeah, because even here there are not so much in Finland, thankfully, but in Europe you will hear. Even now there was a message that came to because we have like WhatsApp chats for the ballroom community, that there was another trans girl in the same situation asking for help,
Yeah.
and then there was another one in Somalia. Now that's one thing I almost mentioned during this recording, but it's a little too deep and too dark. And there was a video out there even of a girl who was my friend Lola's friend, who was about to hop on a plane. She was literally at the airport coming, having left a similar situation. And she was found by her uncle and shot in her head. And there were two other girls with her, went this way and that way. The one who went this way found help. The other one who went this way is still missing. So
yeah,
for that reason, I do appreciate, them stories being put out there, because even if it doesn't help the girls who are in that position right now going hungry, then hopefully it'll reach someone who would be the perpetrator and make them think, give them second thoughts about treating a human being this way.
Right. Yeah. Well, darling, thank you so much. I want you to enjoy your date. I want you to be on time with your date. And look, if anytime I love to travel. Like I don't, because I don't have no children or no kind of responsibility. I travel a lot, so I love to come. I be broke, but I'll spend my last dime going to somewhere just for the new experience. So please don't be surprised if I hit you up and say, girl, I'm trying to come to Finland just for a weekend, for a week, just to see what's going on.
Don't worry about, hey, of course, if you come here, you'll be taken care of too. Don't worry about that.
Yes, I will.
As much as we can do it.
Yes, I love coming. When I came to Amsterdam, I had so much fun. I went to Egypt a couple of years ago, in 2 Decembers ago, and I had so much fun. I went to London for the first time, and then I went to Paris for the first time, like in 2021. And I'm on my international bag right now, where I want to kind of travel and see the world. That's where I'm at.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so don't even worry about being broke. As long as you have tickets, everything else, you will be taken care of. But if you come during the summer.
During the summer.
In the winter, that's like Lapland.
Summer, what's summer for y'all? Like June?
Summer for us is July.
July through September?
Well, I guess towards the end of June till the end of September.
Okay, cool.
Very short time, but
I keep that in mind, because I'm looking for some place to go.
Have a good time.
Yes, I'm serious. Cold. Yeah, that's why I was scared. I was like, "Ooh, it's gonna be." Even though I like fall fashion. I like putting on in regards to like. I don't like it to be cold, but I like it to be fall, like a.
Well, then perhaps you can extend to October.
October, gotcha. Okay, cool. All right, babe. Well, thank you so much. And I will send you a link once I edit it and put it out.
All right. Thank you so much. It was so nice to talk to you.
All right, babe.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good time.
The best way to support is to engage with the content. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Another way to support, if you got a couple of dollars, become a patron. It's a monthly donation just to help content creators continue to do work that they do. So you're sacrificing a coffee or, just a small portion just to show your appreciation for the entertainment that we provide to you on a consistent basis. Thank you so much, and thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.